Well, the primary election is coming up in August, and the race for Seattle mayor continues.
One of the candidates is General Secretary of the Transit Riders Union and longtime local progressive organizer, Katie Wilson.
Katie, thanks for joining us. Let's start with the biggest question first. Why do you want the job?
Great question. Seattle's my home. This is a great city. I'm raising my family here. But over the last 20-some years, I have watched this city become less and less affordable, less and less livable. I want it to be a place where my daughter can grow up and build a life here if she wants to. I think we can do better. The specific event that pushed me into this race was in February. We had a special election to fund Seattle's new social housing developer. I think this is a really important piece of the answer to our housing crisis, and it won in a landslide. Seattle voters have now told us twice, overwhelmingly, that they want the city to build publicly owned, permanently affordable, mixed-income housing. And unfortunately, our current mayor was the face of the opposition campaign funded by Amazon and the Chamber of Commerce. So I just really believe that we need city leadership that is going to work to make the new social housing developer successful, not undermine it.
Do you have specific ideas when it comes to housing?
Absolutely. So again, social housing, we have this new social housing developer. It's going to be a complicated project to get it off on the right foot. We have financing in a difficult financial environment. We have governance. The current city administration has been undermining that project. So, the first thing is to make sure that the city is using its governance and its potentially its bonding capacity to make this new project successful. I also believe that we need to make sure that we can build new housing throughout Seattle. We have a growing region. We've had the tech industry growing over the last 20 years, people moving to our city, and people will continue moving here. We have a housing shortage. That is why homes are so expensive to rent and buy. So we need to be able to build more so that we have more affordable housing available for people.
To your point, I think the median housing price for a single-family home is over $900,000 in Seattle.
It's incredible.
Completely unaffordable for young people and people who haven't purchased already. So you bring up the idea, but maybe you can expand just a bit. How are we going to be able to do that? Because I know mayors for the past 2 decades have been saying, yes, we need to address this, but really it hasn't been addressed.
Yeah, so there's a few things. Right now, the city is talking about our comprehensive plan, which is basically the city's plan for growth over the next 10 years. And what we've seen from Mayor Harrell's administration is continually chipping away at where we can build new housing. It's kind of death by 1,000 cuts. And my fear is that this approach is going to lead to a situation where our housing shortage continues and rents continue to climb. There are also things that we can do for renters. I'm a renter myself. One thing we've seen happening is corporate landlords using these companies like RealPage that basically, it's kind of like good old-fashioned price fixing, but with a 21st century spin, right? They use algorithms to basically tell landlords how they can set their rents to maximize profits. And we've seen this practice driving rent increases over the last few years. Some cities around the country are banning the use of RealPage and similar software. That is something that we could do in Seattle.
We're talking with Katie Wilson, a candidate for Seattle mayor. The city as a whole facing a $250 million shortfall. How do you tackle that?
Yeah. And, I, in 2023, served on the city's revenue stabilization work group. I've done a ton of work over the years on the city's budget and progressive tax options. We've seen that Seattle residents support progressive taxes, that's taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations who in our state are currently not paying their share, right? We have the second most regressive tax system in the country. And I think we all support, adequately funded public services from libraries to parks to first responders. And, the city has options. And as you mentioned, we're facing a very large structural budget shortfall. It has a lot of causes, but inflation has really driven it in the last few years. We could pass a local capital gains tax that layers on top of our state capital gains tax. That's something that's been talked about a little bit, but unfortunately, the current mayoral administration has been basically slow walking discussions of progressive revenue. And that's part of the reason why we're in the situation we're in. In 2020, I led on designing and passing the Jumpstart Payroll Expense Tax, which is our city's landmark tax on wealthy corporations. And it's really responsible for why we didn't have to make devastating cuts to public services during the pandemic. The current mayor in the last budget process scooped up millions and millions of dollars from that tax that were intended for affordable housing to plug a budget hole and to fund his own kind of pet projects. So we can do better. I think we're in a situation moving forward, especially with Trump in the White House, where we're probably going to be facing also cuts to federal grant programs that flow through Seattle. So we have a very challenging financial picture coming up. And that means that the city needs to be very careful about using the funds we have as efficiently and as effectively as possible. And we also need to explore new progressive revenues so that we can continue to fund the services that people depend on, even as we're facing potential cuts from the federal level.
I want to transition over to crime. Crime rates are down in Seattle, at least looking at the crime dashboard. But, if you are in Pioneer Square or downtown where there have been so many shootings outside of nightclubs lately, they would be hard-pressed to believe that.
Yeah.
So what are your plans in terms of addressing that kind of highly visible crime in the city under the Wilson administration?
Yeah, so there's a few pieces to that. And, I think that the city can do a lot better on violence prevention. Right now, our approach to violence prevention is very fragmented. And this is more, I think, really for like youth violence and youth gun violence. So there's a lot of really good evidence-based programs that I think we could be funding and scaling up. In terms of responding to the kind of violence you're talking about, gun violence in Pioneer Square, there's a lot of work that we have to do to improve policing in Seattle. And we've really seen, I think, other cities around the country doing a lot better at addressing some of the problems that we have. We still have police performing many, many functions that police are not needed for that can be done just as well or better by civilians in, frankly, lower paid jobs. And so we still have police who are responding to, take down reports of property crime and responding to the kinds of crisis calls that other health professionals can better respond to. And the result of that is that we do not have the police capacity to respond to those serious crimes that we need police for. So that is one thing where I think we need to push a lot further so that we can focus our police capacity on actual policing.
I don't think we can talk about crime without talking about drugs.
Yes.
475 overdose deaths in King County so far this year.
Yep.
How do we face fentanyl and the drug crisis?
Yeah, totally. And this is the drug crisis is not the same as the homelessness crisis, but they are very intertwined. And one of the things that we've seen with the current administration, unfortunately, is a total failure to expand our shelter capacity. If you're homeless and you are addicted to drugs, it is going to be well nigh impossible for you to fix that habit if you don't have the stability of shelter or housing. We saw Mayor Harrell on the campaign trail 4 years ago promising to build 2,000 units of shelter emergency housing in his first year. He just didn't deliver. And frankly, we've lost shelter capacity every single year that he's been in office. We have 2 homeless people in Seattle for every 1 shelter bed, and our shelter beds are 95% full on any given night. So what this means is that we have so many people outside with nowhere to go, some of whom have serious issues with drug use. And we're just not giving people the support that they need. We have proven programs like the LEAD program, which are very effective at helping people, including people with serious drug issues. And we need to be supporting those programs and scaling them up.
Fentanyl is more deadly than heroin.
Yep.
It is killing more people. Methamphetamines now are different and causing almost immediate mental health issues that are permanent. We don't see as much of an effort to get people into rehab, into detox right away, as we do into harm reduction. And this is harming people. What are some of your ideas for perhaps more assertively asking people, hey, what about getting into rehab? What about getting into detox, instead of letting them continue doing something that is killing them?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there are limited tools that the city has. I think there are some new creative approaches to methamphetamine and to fentanyl that are really promising, and that I think we can scale up.
We were able to chat with one of your competitors, Joe Malahan, earlier this week on Seattle's Morning News, and he claimed you push in your activism defunding the police. How do you respond to that?
Look, it's 2025. No one is talking about defunding the police. I think what the people of Seattle want, and certainly what I want, is a police force that is adequately staffed and that is also responsive, accountable, and works with the communities that it serves. And we have challenges. I think in 2020, you saw people around the country spill out onto the streets after the murder of George Floyd for some very good reasons, right? We have problems with policing in this country, and we have problems with policing in Seattle. And, frankly, we have not gone as far as a lot of cities around the country have in addressing those problems over the last 5 years. And police accountability is one of those things, right? We have some deep conflicts of interest baked into the ways that we investigate officer misconduct here in Seattle, whereas other cities have gone further in civilianizing that investigation. So, the police contract that our current mayor negotiated makes very little progress. So we need to do better on that front.
Does the city of Seattle have a gang problem?
Yes. There's certainly gang activity. I think this is part of this bigger issue of youth disenfranchisement, violence, like youth feeling like they don't have a home in this city or a community in this city. And so there's a lot that we can do better, again, with youth violence prevention and with creating those supportive third spaces where, especially as a low-income youth, you can go and, have activities, have community without having to spend money. So I think that there's a lot we can do to address that problem from the ground up.
You mentioned that you have a daughter, and this is part of what sparked you to begin this campaign. What else do we not know about you? Tell me something about you personally. How old's your daughter?
My daughter she's actually going to be turning 2 years old on the night of the August primary.
Wait a minute. You're running for mayor and raising a toddler?
That's true.
Oh, my goodness. True. Well, congratulations on handling both so far. Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, Katie Wilson, we thank you for coming in. One of the things that we're really trying to do on our show is have these open lines of communication. I think for far too long, it really has been a very closed door dealing with multiple mayoral administrations.
Yeah.
Certainly, if you are elected, we would love to have more and more conversations with you. It's important.
I would love that. I think that open communication with the public, with the media, and just responsiveness is such an important part of the job of the mayor. And as I've been on the campaign trail talking with individuals, with community groups around the country, around the city, not around the country, that is one thing that I hear again and again is they want leadership that communicates and that responds to their concerns, and just that feeling of back and forth and being heard and not feeling like things are a closed box is so important.
This is your standing invitation to come back and join us on Seattle's Morning News anytime.
I'll do that as mayor.
Katie Wilson, thank you.
Thank you so much.